I believe in investing in human beings. The most valuable asset on planet Earth is not gold, it's not silver, it's not bronze, it's not any of those precious metals, it's not oil. It's actually the human potential. I've been representing brands,
Just
corporate ones, but I've never thought about human brands. And that's now when I realized when these two worlds come together, it's gonna be epic.
Right.
Marketing is not really an art. It's actually a science.
More of a science.
Yeah.
So it seems like AIESEC was like a pivotal.
Oh, yeah.
Like in your story, AIESEC opens up you to the
Everything.
world. Gives you opportunities.
Everything.
I mean,
if you're new and right now by then you haven't joined AIESEC, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of sacrifice to build wealth. Until it pains you somewhere, success doesn't just come. You have to really work for it. You have to sweat for it. From age of 7, my mom told me you do not have an inheritance in this household. So I had to look for my own. I always had to look for my own.
Hey guys, welcome to Financially Incorrect, podcast proudly sponsored by FX Pesa. As usual, I have a money story for you guys, and I'm really looking forward to this. I think we've been trying to do this for, I think since like we said we were gonna have this interview. It's been like a year. You might not
Almost
know
a
this,
year.
but
Yeah,
it's been some time since we
Yeah.
wanted to get this interview done. So with me today, I have none other than Joel Rao, who is the CEO of Dentsu, the co-founder of Africa Creative Agency. He's a husband, he's a father, and he has had a great career so far, I think, based on my book, based on my perception and what I've seen. So welcome to Financially
Thank
Incorrect.
you so much. I'm so glad that we finally made this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, before we even get into like the conversation, this I have to ask, just for public perception, and I guess whatever your commentary would be, we will take it.
Okay.
This dust up that was there, I think when we're shooting this episode, it's been like 2 weeks since someone went on Twitter and like had a big issue around some contract and some issue around, I guess, what they were calling potential exploitation, vis-a-vis being in the Dentsu School of Influence. What are your thoughts for what you can say? Because we also do understand there are legal matters, there are things you might not be able to say, things you can say.
Yes.
Just give a comment.
Yeah, so I mean, the overall vision for the Dentsu School of Influence was really to empower the next generation of creators.
Yeah.
Giving them valuable skills around not just creating their content, not just like taking advantage of different algorithms across the different social channels. More value around really understanding what their niche is. For the community that they're trying to build and obviously monetize from, how to, succeed in doing brand partnerships, how to correctly price themselves, because it's a problem. Like, no one will give you a guidebook like this is how you do it. No one has done it yet.
Yeah.
And more importantly, how to also manage the wealth, that would be generated from the monetization exercises they would have, and all in all, also just how to work with different agency partners, not just Dentsu. So we know that it is, influencers have had issues within the industry. This was actually meant to sort of be a turning point of what, and it is gonna be that. We're strongly moving forward with that.
Yeah.
What I can say is that there were definitely, being a first time doing this, there are definitely teething challenges, issues around like, giving people contracts on time. In hindsight, that's actually true. We take that on. We'll definitely do it for the next cohort because whatever we're doing, we're building, we're co-creating it with them. And it's something that, we'll go forward with. The event in question was purely a recruitment exercise, as many people online have actually alluded to. And we were just using that event to see who creates the best content out of their experiences of that event. Like very many influencers or creators who are invited to come for events, or they're given PR packages to, talk about the product. It's the same thing. Would we have done it differently? Slightly differently, maybe from an organizational perspective. But these are all learnings we're taking forward, from our first cohort.
Yeah.
And we're committing to be doing, at least 2 cohorts a year.
Yeah.
And every lesson learned is going to be applied in the next one. Yeah. You only learn from your failures, and it's only upwards from here.
That's true. And I guess you did mention, before we started speaking, that it is a little bit like TPF.
Exactly.
You submit a TPF.
Shout out to Social Insider on that one. Yeah.
A TPF, you're going to go and sing. And they will see you and use your
exactly
content and whatever and put it out there. Okay, I guess
Yeah.
fair enough on that. Maybe a question around the specifically now like Dentsu School of Influence vis-a-vis what like Murugi Muni is doing now, right? Where she's offering classes and trying to teach people directly how to monetize on social media and how to make money on social media. Where would you place both of these institutions, so to speak? Or
I mean, everyone has a. I'm not sure how her curriculum is set up. I'm aware of how we're doing it. So first and foremost, the people who are coming on board are not. They're not paying for this.
Yes, there's no payment.
There's no direct payment. We do have experience in the space working with different brands, so we'll give our input, we'll give our builds from an agency perspective. We also bring in fellow creators to come and give their experiences also, and more importantly, we're also bringing in subject matter experts. So we're bringing in channel experts to come and talk about different things. We are bringing financial institutions to come and talk about wealth and how to manage that. So it's different things. I can't get into the specifics of who's coming, but hopefully by the time this airs, the school will be happening and you'll be seeing a lot of that. We'll be talking a lot about it then.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a much needed thing in this space, and the influencer marketing space needs some sort of structure, and I think
it does need to provide. And in all honesty, I believe in investing in human beings, and a lot of my stories are actually related to that, and I think this is just a step in that direction also, aligning to what I also personally believe in as a human being at the end of the day.
Maybe last question on the influencer marketing space thing. What do you think the future is? I mean, looking 2-3 years from now, what do you think the future is for influencers and the influencer business in Kenya? And what movement has there been over the last 5 years? Do you feel like it's moved? The needle has moved quite a bit?
I think the needle has moved. So definitely the needle has moved as far as the percentage of marketing investment that's going into influencers. I think if it's structured, and hopefully this gets it structured, more creators would actually get to benefit more out of this. I have a very bold bet around this space. And I think even with my own personal investments around the businesses that I've worked on, the bet on the human potential is always going to be the best. I actually mentioned this before in a previous podcast, like the biggest, the most valuable asset on planet Earth is not gold, it's not silver, it's not bronze, it's not any of those precious metals, it's not oil. It's actually the human potential, and I completely stand by it. And the reason why I say this is because brands initially used to do like ambassadorial roles, but they were very much limited to individual people. And then social media came on, and then the birth of the creator came about, and this was catalyzed by the pandemic, obviously, because people were bored and everyone became TikTok came in and also democratized that further, right? One of the things that we are beginning to see is, and this is now a big bet over the next 2 to 3 years, is brands are not only going to co-create with creators as far as marketing campaigns are concerned. I think products are going to be created. And the creators, I hope, if done correctly, if we set the right foundations right, will be able to own a stake of those products. Right? So it's not just about, I have a community, come and monetize my community with your marketing campaign, or today I'm pushing, this beer. Tomorrow I'm pushing, a different competitor beer. It will be more, I want to believe it will be more long term. So where you see a creator also earning in the profits that are made from that, but you'd have to have built your community, you'd have to have, nurtured that fandom that you carry as a creator in such a way that if this is what you're pushing, then you're also earning a profit. You're also part and parcel of that business that's building that. That's where I see this going.
A question on that. Do you think we have big enough creators in our country, in our region for that. And the reason why I'm asking is purely from a business case perspective, because of course in the West, this is happening. I mean, Rihanna's Fenty line, I mean, is owned, technically it's a company owned by the same guys who own Louis Vuitton. It's a licensing deal. Fragrance companies do this in the West everywhere, where we own the manufacturing, we'll get a fragrance together, put your name on it, and we can monetize, and you own a percentage of the profits that are going to come.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, but of course the business has to make sense. Like I have to feel like you have the ability to drive that sales.
Of course.
Yeah. And we do see...
it has happened already in Kenya. I mean, I can give like a case. In 2016, Chrome was it's a drink that no one knew.
Yeah.
And, what did Sauti Sol come and do?
Yeah.
They came and sprinkled their magic. It was everywhere. And that was the power of the talent that they had, that they pushed it on entertainment, that was then linked into a business. And the community picked it up, and Chrome grew massively from there.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Like there's power in that. It has already happened. I don't see why it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think my context was coming more from whether, and I guess you have given an answer with Chrome and Sauti Sol. How many creators we have in our market that would be able to sustain an agreement with a huge manufacturer who's doing
I think what it takes for creators is the discipline and the ability to understand the economical nuances that go into doing a business, because you're not looking at yourself now as a human being. As a creator, you're looking at yourself as a business. And so you become a human brand. So it's a different ballgame. And so if you have the discipline enough to be able to do that, then I think you're in the right direction to get you to where you need to be.
Okay, fair enough. All right, we can go on and on about this, but let me now come down to your story.
Yeah.
And usually before I start the interview, I usually ask a question that's completely left field. That's just like a philosophical question. And so my question for you today is, do you think that you're afraid of dying or afraid of not dying on your terms? Meaning, is it death itself that's scaring you, or is it the fact that you'd want to die on your terms, and what you're afraid of is not dying on your terms?
I think the latter is true for me. Not dying on my terms. Death is inevitable. But I also very much believe in the power of life and death, and the power of framing your reality through your words. And I have a Christian upbringing, so I'm very, very big on that. If people around me will always tell you that when they say certain things, I'm like, why the heck are you putting that out into the universe? Like, can you just take it back? Yeah, exactly. The power of the tongue. So yeah, I think the latter for me is more definitive into my reality. And framing my own terms is something that I'm hoping that it actually, God willing, by the time my assignment on Earth is done, that I'd have done my part, and generations after me would actually benefit from what I've been able to do now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah.
All right. So what was your childhood like? What was your upbringing like? And what was money in that context? Like, I know you have you're 4 boys.
There are 4 boys in my family.
We are 4 boys as well.
Oh, that's dope.
I'm on the last end of the 4 boys. I think you're on the first end.
Top end.
But yes, yeah.
Yeah. My upbringing was very interesting. So I obviously come from a mixed race household. My father is Indian. My mom is Kikuyu. Finances.
Right.
I think, in all honesty, I always tell people this. Like, I think my parents were the first financial literacy influencers in at least in my life.
Yes.
When my dad would be would have statements like, Joel, I'm working very hard for you to be able to get a good education. I want you to bloody know that money doesn't grow on a tree. So when when your dad tells you that, and that's like, pumped into your second, I hope he doesn't watch this episode. It becomes very clear that you actually have to work, not just for money, but for your wealth. You have to, it takes a lot of sacrifice to build wealth. Until it pains you somewhere, success doesn't just come. You have to really work for it. You have to sweat for it. So yeah, my parents were, as I said, the biggest financial influencers before it was even trendy.
Right.
Before you came, before Just Ivy came, I think they had it on lock for me and my brothers. But what was quite interesting is something my mom told me. I think we used to live in Nairobi and then we moved to Webuye.
Webuye.
Yeah. Okay. Western Kenya. For those of you who don't know,
I'm from Western.
You're from Western, yeah? Yeah. What's your second name?
Bukusu.
Hey, Bukusu. You're Bukusu.
No, I'm actually Buhayo.
But
many people think it's anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm from Western.
So we moved to Western when I was probably 10. And life, you're living in Greenfields and then you suddenly go to Site and Service, which is an estate in Webuye, and life just completely changes. Like you move from a house with electricity to a house with no electricity. And the reason why my dad moved is because he used to do a lot of engineering work with some of the factories in Webuye, not in Webuye, but in the Western region. Being first generation Indian, he came to Kenya, worked on Mumia's sugar. Worked on Zoya Sugar, worked on pan paper mills, and so on and so forth. So, like, there are a lot of those factories that, required his engineering prowess. And so he saw it fit to just set up base there. And so it just made sense for us to just move there.
Right.
So, I've always been a half glass full kind of guy. So I always took this as an adventure for myself. And I remember asking my mom, like, Mom, are we suddenly poor?
Or because of
the environment. And I was like, no, it's just like, a change of scenery. We're not poor. We still have, money. We can still, live. And, slowly but surely, I saw my dad, continually build his wealth in that side of the country together with my mom. Went to Lugulu Boarding Primary School.
Not heard of it.
She knows it.
Boarding.
Well, I didn't go for boarding until
right.
It was a day school. But what was really interesting about that whole experience is that I got to see a different side of life from what I'd been used to in Nairobi. Seeing that, what I thought was a need for me was a want for other people. And that shift in perspective at a very young age made me look at things a bit differently as we went along. I could see people around me, having to tighten their belts. I used to get break in school here in Nairobi. There, you go for break, you're going to play football, and there are 2 break times. It's not 1 break time, there are 2 break times. You're used to, getting biscuits and crisps and here and there. When I went there, I think we did it for 2 weeks and we were like, we don't need to have break. You just have breakfast and then you wait until lunch.
And you're good.
Yeah. But that also gave me a very interesting view in how to make money and be enterprising, because there used to be borders there. So at probably age 10, age 11, when I was in school, the boarders would pay me a fee to go and bring like boxes of biscuits in my bag, because I'm a day scholar. And then I'd make a percentage off of their sales. Right. So there are 200 biscuits. Your 200 biscuits or 240 biscuits in a box. You're selling each biscuit for a shilling. You're going to make 240 shillings. The biscuit probably costed 160, 150, 160, depending on whether it's Britannia or Nice or whatever.
Yeah,
House of Manji or whatever. Right. I would make a percentage off of that plus my muling fees.
Right.
So it was interesting to see how that came to life. But then, that was also illegal in school. So you can't do it for long, obviously.
Yeah.
And then, my upbringing into teenagehood, I could see my mom opening.
Were you guys how long were you guys in Busia for?
In Webuye?
Webuye. I'm home.
You're home?
How long were you in Webuye for?
I mean, my dad and mom are still there till today. Okay. I still go visit. But after high school, I definitely now got out of there.
But like, so
Between standard 4 and form 4. That's what, 8 years? Yeah, it is 8 years.
Yeah. That's
when I was
interesting.
There. Yeah. And for my first 10 years, I was in Nairobi.
Okay. Was pocket money a thing for you guys when you were in Webuye or in Nairobi?
No, pocket money in Nairobi, hell no. You know, first and foremost, there was no need for pocket money because you have everything that you need in the house. When I grew older, like probably standard 7, standard 8, that's when it started making sense. So every probably 3 months, my mom would give us like 500 bob, and then you deposit it in the basa and you spend it when you need it. You'd need it for transport or to replenish your snacks or whatever. We would always get that. And I must say, then I didn't have like a culture of like saving money, like to use it at the end. Like more often than not, I'd have enough money to just get home because I'd go through that, and that's because I looked at it as a tool, as opposed to I looked at money as a tool, as opposed to something that I need to hold on to and make money, make more out of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after high school, what do you decide to study, and is there any financial considerations with whatever it is you want to get into after that?
Yeah, actually there was. So while I was in high school, I want to say in Form 3, I always wanted to be a software engineer. And I was so laser focused on... The thing about me is that I've always been... when I decide to focus on something, I'll give it so much energy, so much focus. Like, I'll be so laser focused that I will not focus on anything else. That's around me. And that allowed me to be able to, sort of think of myself as this awesome software engineer. So this is back in 2003, 2004, give or take. And I started thinking about, getting into computer science, getting into doing software engineering. But then over the holidays, because I'm like this geeky, nerdy person in high school, who also plays basketball. But when I go home, my mom used to force me to go and sit at her shop, which sold clothes. And I have always been outgoing with people. Like, I'll come and say hi. What's up? Oh, nice shoes. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And she'd have me help her sell outfits to women. So a woman would walk in and say, I'm looking to buy, a blouse. I'm like, oh yeah, let's check your size. That blouse would actually go very, very well with that skirt. And that skirt would go very, very well with those shoes. And those shoes would go very, very well with that purse.
Right.
And so you end up like learning how to upsell. So I learned how to upsell at a very early age. And for me, it just came natural because it was just there. And just being the extrovert that I am, I just like learned how to express myself in that way. But what was really interesting for me is because that came easy, like just selling came easily. My mom kept on using me and abusing me to sell. And she'd be like, yeah, you're a good looking boy. These girls will come, just sell. And I would sell, and then I'd find it hard to sell to men because they'd come and I want socks. Umeona hizi viatu pia zinaenda vizuri hapa na mimi nataka tu socks. So it would be interesting. Like I found it easier to sell to women. And they would always come back to the shop. And I know I'd get like, freebies like, chips and whatever. I'd get tips here and there, and it would be nice. But that was for me what got me into doing what I'm doing. And so when I got to uni, I actually got a scholarship to go to Oral Roberts University to study software engineering. The US Embassy did not give me my visa.
Oh, how come?
I think because my dad was a foreigner.
So they said,
there's no way.
There's
too many moving. Umetoka Nairobi. You went where? Western. Now you want to go to... So I was like, they were like, nah. So I decided to actually join a local university. I ended up joining Strathmore. I did my business and IT degree there. And then, well, when I was, just before I joined Strath, the reason actually why I joined Strath is because my auntie had hooked me up with a job at the then NIC Bank. And get this, it was to sell actually the Young Movers account, which was new. So the idea was, go to a shopping mall like in Junction, where you're actually going to talk to people who have parents and convince them to open an account. And I'm like, oh, that's easy. Like, I'm good with talking to people. I mean, if I smile at you, chances are that you're going to smile back at me, type of thing. And we'll strike a conversation from there. So when we were doing our introductions at NIC, I remember my auntie told me that, when you get to the office, please don't say that this opportunity was given to you by me. Don't bring me up in any of these conversations. I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then when the marketing director walked in and she was like, hi, my name is, I've forgotten her name. But I remember how she looked like. And she said, my name is so-and-so, and I'm an alumni of AIESEC in University of Nairobi. I was like, what is this AIESEC thing? And then she was like, all of you are here because you're in AIESEC, so please introduce yourselves and say which chapter you're from. Have you ever wanted the earth to open up and swallow you?
Yeah.
So one
by
by
one.
one.
There was no ChatGPT those days.
There was no ChatGPT.
What is AIESEC?
Yeah, at that time internet was on edge. I remember one lady stood up and said, hi, my name is Ngendo, and I'm from AIESEC in USIU. That's a real person, and she was in AIESEC in USIU. I'm so-and-so, and I'm from AIESEC in Catholic University. I'm so-and-so, and from AIESEC in... And then I was like, the thing is, I'd gone to sit back. Like, I came in early, and I sat at the back. And then she walked in, and she was like, everyone introduced themselves, and she was like, and, good-looking gentleman at the end, what's your name and which chapter are you from? And I stood up really slowly and I said, hi, my name is Joel Rao and I'm from AIESEC in Strathmore. And then there was this eerie silence in the room. And then I saw the lady looking at me and squinting her eyes and she said, I didn't know there was AIESEC in Strathmore University. And then I was like, I could literally, I was sweating. And Ngendo from AIESEC in USA, he was like, actually, there's AIESEC in Strathmore. It started 2 years ago. It was a child chapter of AIESEC in USIU. Yeah. And they've been there. They've been operational. In fact, so-and-so is there. And I felt like this sigh of relief. But what got me thinking then was that the conversations they were having were like, oh, we are having dinner with the CEO of the Nairobi Stock Exchange then. We are having a lunch with the Attorney General Amoswako. All leaders are going there. Oh, we're traveling to India for this. And I was like, who are these young people who are so empowered? And so I was genuinely intrigued. So I went and told my mom I want to go to Strathmore University. And I'll do the entrance exam. And I know I'll ace it. And the first thing I did when I went to Strath is go and check where AIESEC is. And the rest is history. I joined AIESEC in Strath. And the reason why I did that is because it was easy for me to talk to people, but at the same time study, computer science. As life would have it, digital marketing was also an emerging thing. And, it required people with a great marketing and sales acumen. Yeah. To partner that with what you've learned on that. So when I finished my uni degree, I ended up going to Mexico City to work with Telefonica Movies, to work with AIESEC first.
This is through AIESEC?
This was through AIESEC, okay. Yeah. Went to the Netherlands first, and then went to Mexico for a program where I was literally in charge of the communications for AIESEC there. And then I got poached by one of the AIESEC clients to actually do digital marketing for them then. Okay. And this is in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
Throughout this phase, right? So sort of this, let's talk about like the uni phase.
Yeah.
What are your money habits at that point?
Oh,
if any,
if
that
any,
you can remember. Yes.
Get it, save it, spend it on one thing that you really, really want. So I'll give an example. When I was in uni, I was also part-time working. So that's something that I never brought up. My first gig was with a company called Center Stage Marketing. They were actually doing a event for then Barclays called the Barclays Step Ahead Walk. So it was raising funds for children in school, in high school particularly, to fund buying equipments for their labs. So the work was to just do that. And I was in charge of going to talking to people again and convincing them to, contribute to the cause.
Seems like that you really have, that's really your jam.
Yeah, it was really my jam. Like just like having conversations with people and like, convincing them to doing something that they would not necessarily do is something that, I did have. But what was interesting throughout that journey is that I made my first, I think, 15K. And at that time, after the walk, my now wife, we went on our first date then. So we went on a date then. And then after the date, went to CBD. And I put all that money to buying a Sony Ericsson Walkman. I've forgotten the name. Someone told me it used to be a Walkman that you could. It was a Walkman and a phone, so you'd like turn it, and it was like a flip phone type of thing. Right. And I really wanted that phone, and I was the coolest kid in uni after that.
But okay.
Yeah, but I always my philosophy around money was to get it, save it, and use that money to buy something that I really, really want. Yeah. So when Safaricom, stocks came out, I remember my auntie, again from the bank, and telling me, Joel, you should consider buying stocks for Safaricom. As soon as they were listed like this, I was there.
One of the first.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
So I guess you were. I think for a lot of people who, I guess, in that uni phase, it was relatively responsible. I mean, at least there was something. I think.
Yeah, there was something, and I mean, if I think about like even for AIESEC, I needed to travel, so I had to come up even with innovative ways of like getting a ticket fare. Like,
what was your folk support like for like the trips, the AIESEC trips you were taking?
No,
or it was like
again. From age of 7, my mom told me, you do not have an inheritance in this household. So I had to look for my own. I always had to look for my own. I mean, they would still give me pocket money, but I'd either save it. I'd like walk from Strath to Globe and save like that transport in between.
And that's a trek.
And that's a trek. It was fun though. I mean.
Would you do it now?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would. I would, yeah.
Okay.
I love walking also.
Yeah. But okay, so I mean, so they're giving you pocket money, but basically these are the things that you're doing.
Is to make more money for me to be able to do what I need to do.
Okay.
So, for example, when I needed to travel for like a conference, I remember I needed to travel to Togo, I think. I needed to go to Ghana, land in Ghana, take a matatu ride that's 3 hours in the hot, humid weather that they have, cross the border to Togo, and then go to Lome and attend the conference there. Right. One thing that happened was for that I had to go and like figure out how am I going to raise this money, and then you'd either talk to like board members to give you actual cash to be able to do that, but then by that time people had already like exhausted that avenue. So I think the most innovative thing I did is I thought about air miles, and I asked someone like, why don't you use your air miles to buy me a ticket? And then I didn't realize that you also have to pay airport tax. You have to pay airport tax, which is 18K. Where am I getting 18K from? So, it used to be like that. And then, and you don't want to go sounding like a beggar. You also have to like have some form of value exchange, which I came to realize that if you have value for yourself, it's easy for you to showcase that value exchange, and you can be able to actually show. So like, you're actually investing in my future. And chances are that when I'm at your position in a near future, I will also be able to return the favor or like have that domino effect going. Right. Okay. Yeah, which is actually what happened. Yeah.
So it seems like AIESEC was like a pivotal, like in your story, AIESEC opens up you to the
world,
gives you opportunities.
Everything. I mean, if you're in uni right now, by then you haven't joined AIESEC, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I joined like right at the tail end.
Okay.
So I don't think I got like the full benefits of what could have done. But I mean, it looks like I mean, if you
I maxed
for, like
out
everything
for
it
what
has.
it was worth. Yeah.
Okay. So, and this I got from, I guess, one of the, when, doing research about you coming, one of the podcasts that you were on, you talk about being in Mexico.
Yes.
And your wife, your now wife, getting pregnant. There was a maybe I've gotten the sequencing wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for the pivotal moment of you at 24.
Oh yeah, no, that was after Mexico now.
That was after
that was
after the long
Mexico,
distance.
long distance.
So that's where I want to go.
Yeah,
so you come back.
Yeah. Get married.
You get married.
Yeah.
What's that phase of your life like now, as you're considering marriage, considering all of that?
So I come back home. So the reason why I actually come back home is the person who poached me, or person who actually asked me to join Telefonica Movistar in Mexico, was Carlos Slim.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, he was a board member, but at that time was like probably the, I guess, top 10 richest men in the world. Mm-hmm. Many investments, and I would see him like probably once every 6 months. So when I was there, my last meeting with him, he told me, or rather he provoked me to think a bit differently. He was like, look, you've done so much for Latin America and for the company here. Mm-hmm. What are you doing for home? Mm-hmm. And that I won't lie to you, that really shook me. Mm-hmm. Because, life's moving there, things work, you're growing yourself, you're making money, you're saving. For me, I was saving for saving purposes, not necessarily for an investment. So I said, look, I think I'll come home. I think it's time. I started applying for jobs. So I did get into like an interview phase with a company called InMobi. Of which, every time I interviewed, I like went to the next phase, and I didn't want to like put all my hopes in that. I was like, yeah, if it works out, it works out. If it's mine, it's mine. That's also how I was brought up. Like, if something is yours, it's yours. Mm-hmm. If it's not yours, don't get attached to it. Mm-hmm. So I never had any attachment to the prospect of getting that opportunity. So I came back to Kenya, actually right opposite this road. InMobi was at Eden Square. And I remember coming in, and on my way, my last interview before coming back home was the worst. Worst.
Of all the ones that you had.
And it was an Indian guy. Mm-hmm. Worse than my dad. He asked me a question like, Joel, I've got this data in an Excel sheet. I want you to do a pivot table for me. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what a pivot table is.
Yeah.
Arrange the data chronologically. Give me the data. Do it fast now, 5 minutes. And then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. His name is Ankit. I'm sorry, Ankit. I have a Linux machine. I don't have a Windows machine. It's like, Joel, stop bullshitting me. Am I allowed to curse?
yeah.
Like, don't bullshit me. Yeah. It's like, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. And that was my first lesson. Like, if you just don't know something, just say you don't know. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know. And just move on instead of wasting people's time.
Yes.
Long story short, he was like, you need to tell me right now. You're going back to Nairobi. You need to tell me right now if you really want this job. Mm-hmm. Send me an email. And if you really want this job, I'll take you to the next level. And I sent an email back and I said, despite the bad interview that I had with you, I actually want this job. I was like, okay, fine. That's the right attitude. And I was like, the reason why I put you to go to the next stage is because you had the right attitude, despite me harassing you. Mm-hmm. I was like, clients will harass you all the time, but just have the right attitude. So that was a learning lesson. So I came, I applied, I went for the next role. Apparently, the role that I was applying for, they already had someone in mind for it. Mm-hmm. But they created a new position for me. So when I came back home, I didn't want to go and see my parents without saying, hey, I've come from Mexico. Here I am. Do you have a job? My dad. Yeah. Money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah. Telling me that, what are you doing for a job? I wanted to go with like a solid plan. Like, I've actually come home and I actually do have a position. And they sent me the offer letter. I declined it. I said, I don't think this remuneration level covers the international experience that I've had and my ability to convince people to try something new.
Yes.
I understood the technology behind it. It was very clear to me, but they came back to me and they gave me a nice offer.
A better offer. That time, let me see if you'll answer. At that time, what was the offer like?
I'll tell you what the offer was at that time. Yeah. So coming back home, I remember the offer was 180,000 shillings gross. With a bonus payout of 700,000 shillings.
Okay. Yearly.
Okay. If you hit your targets.
Okay.
And then they give you organizational targets that you're supposed to hit.
And how old were you at this point?
23.
Okay.
And they came back and they told me, when I looked at the offer, I was like, I don't think it's enough. So I declined.
Did you truly didn't feel like it was enough? Or
I actually truly felt it wasn't enough.
Oh, okay.
I was like, for the life that I was living in Mexico, what I was being paid there, currency exchange. Obviously, cost of living here is lower. I mean, it would have been enough in the grand scheme. If I think about it, it would have been more than enough.
Yes.
Like, with the house in Ruaka, like a studio apartment.
You'd have been fine.
I'd have been very fine.
Yeah.
But just knowing, I was like, I feel I'm more valuable than this and I can demonstrate it because I could actually demonstrate the value. Because of my AIESEC networks, a lot of people who are ahead of me or people who sat in boards were in organizations that were actually going to work. So I already have ready networks to establish some level of communication. And it's true, your network is your net worth. It's absolutely true. Yeah. I just demonstrated that and I said, look, some of the businesses that you're trying to target, I know so-and-so here, I know so-and-so here, I know so-and-so here. I think I can be able to tap into so-and-so who can be able to help me here. I'm one degree of connection from this person. And I just said, I think I deserve more.
So they came back with a better offer.
And they came back with a better offer at 250.
With a better bonus or the bonus was the same?
No, with a better bonus also.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
the bonus was like, I think, $1 million.
Now with the new offer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now once you have that negotiation and you get your money, what is it like to deliver on what you've said? Because whereas, you've said, I know someone here.
That's
it's
the
one thing
hard
to know
part.
someone.
Yeah.
But then
now when the rubber meets the road. Thankfully, because of Ankit, he ended up becoming my boss.
Yes.
We, at the time, we were going up against Google because Google were also pushing their mobile advertising proposition. All I needed to do was, focus on 20% of the clients who are going to give me 80% of my revenue targets. And I focused on a small niche of clients. So I started with agencies. So I went to agencies and pushed the agenda. I was like, you guys, like innovation. And I remember Saracen was one of my first clients. Shout out to Lenny and Joe, and Samantha, who's now my business partner. Actually, Samantha was my first client, and she doesn't remember to this day. She's my co-CEO at Dentsu. But Nokia was one of my first clients that I had. And we did great work with Nokia. We did a lot of HP work. We did a lot of gaming. I don't know whether you remember Waptrick.
Yes.
Yeah, so Waptrick was one of our big gaming clients, Angry Birds. So we did a lot of that. And it was a great run. I did, I was an account manager, made to account director. And then at the end of my first year, I used to do a lot of reports for my boss, graphs, and I would because numbers was something that I was fascinated with. And with my software engineering background, it was easy to come by.
Yeah.
And she just told me, you have a knack for numbers. Would you be interested in a business analyst position? I was like, yeah, why not? Okay, I'll fly you to India and you'll get training from the HQ. Then I was like, cool. So I went to India, only to realize that there were only 5 business analysts in the whole company. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm valuable. There are only 5 of us.
And how big was what was the size of the company? I mean,
4,000, 5,000 easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Across the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, when you're making a considerable amount of money, still relatively young.
And with also a young family starting coming up.
So what were you doing with the money at that point?
At that point, my philosophy was, I want to give, my daughter was born when I was still 24. And I hadn't turned 25, but for me, it was like a laser focus on how to give this little being that I'm responsible for the best life that they can ever have. So for me at that time was, I remember when she turned 9 months, I got an education policy for her with Britam that, helped her mature. Like I made some pretty nice decisions. Then they were hurtful then for me, but, they kind of helped, in the future.
Do you feel like, when you look back, do you feel like it was one of your biggest catalysts for
marrying early
and having a family early?
Yes.
To generating lots of revenue?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because the laser focus that I got when I was at that age was, I can't even begin to explain it. And that coupled with the fact that I had friends who are older than me, like way, way older than me, and they would tell me things like, Joel, you started really early. Some of us, we started when we were like 35, 36. You have started like, 10 years early. That's good because by the time you're 50,
you may be done.
Yeah. Actually, by the time I'm 45, I think my daughter will have finished high school, I guess. No. Yeah, 45. By the time I'm 50, all of them will have gone through.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's some good math there.
Yeah, that's good math. But I didn't expect it. Like I never planned for it, And also shout out to my wife. Like, she also sacrificed quite a bit of her life, to allow me to do what I do. And, she's been able to, be a partner in building a legacy. So you remember me telling you, like, growing up, I was told, you do not have any inheritance in this house. I said to myself, I'm going to try as much as possible to create generational wealth that will impact the generation after me.
Okay.
And so it's about building that legacy. It's about thinking, you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking generationally.
Okay.
So everything that I do till now, it's for those lovely girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's a lot that happens in your career, of course, starting really young to where you are today.
Yeah.
If you were to try and give me like two monumental seismic moments that change your financial direction, or the direction your life is taking financially and leading you towards, building this generational wealth for your kids. What would they be?
One, the role of debt in building wealth. Because I've had also bad experiences with debt. So I'll give an experience, for example. So because now I was making like good money at like 24, the bank comes and tells you, we have a gold card that you qualify for. Imagine at 24 having a gold credit card, from Barclays at that time. My man.
You said, give me that thing.
Later. You go out, with friends, you're buying lunch, whatever, you're out for shopping, card. And then the mistake that I made is I thought like, maybe if I can pay small portions of that would help in, like I can manage my cash flow. What I didn't realize is like I understood it, but it hadn't hit home. The practicality of it hadn't, like, if you're going to get a credit card, just pay it in full and use it when you need to use it, or you use it for the points or whatever. So that like really affected me, and I got to eventually, I remember I paid off. First and foremost, I cut the card. I got so pissed off, I cut the card. And then now I have to pay off this money until it's over. And I remember the last payment I walked up to, where we were in Westlands. Yeah. There used to be a branch behind next to Sankara.
Yes.
There used to be a Barclays branch there. I remember going to the counter and I say, this is my last payment. clear me out. Oh, where's the card? I cut it. Or we'll charge you. I want here 500. I'll take it. And I don't think I think I've gotten like several other cards afterwards, but like just learning the role of debt. And then for me, like when I bought my first car, for example, I was buying it off of someone who was unable to pay his debt. So I took on the debt, and it was a one of one Honda. I still have it till today. I said I don't think I'll ever sell it. One of one car, sports car, red Integra. And one of the things that they mentioned is that they wanted to have me continually make those payments. One thing I learned now was like if I just paid them in lump sum as opposed to paying the scheduled amounts would have been better for me. Is something also that I got to learn as I was. So you learn from the mistakes that you make.
Yes.
So I think the one good thing I did is like I eventually when I wanted to buy property is now when I started like saying, okay, maybe I should use debt to buy assets that actually appreciate in value as opposed to like a car. The moment people don't know this, but the moment a car steps out of a showroom, when it's brand new,
25%,
it depreciates in value. So, it's things like those. But yeah, it allowed me to be able to do that, allowed me to buy my first house. I sold my first house because I realized mortgage rates in this country are like, ridiculous and you're better off probably using that payout to make more money for you. And so, looking at other investment opportunities, whether it's, investment groups. Also in investment groups, I also made like, mistakes, like, or like people get into SACCOs, you borrow. I've never gotten into a SACCO, but I hear stories of like, borrowing more than you've contributed.
Yes.
And then, ensuring that you cover off your contribution plus whatever it is that like it's those mistakes that would happen. So just like understanding what the role of debt would play in growing in wealth generation. I think for me was a big lesson.
What about that's one thing. What about the ability to have the capital? Because it does sound like there is or was quite a bit of capital that was generated. To be able to buy a house, to be able to pay off this debt, to be able to pay a family. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if you have something on that regard with what you've learned or what your experience has been with regard to trying to
generate capital.
Yes.
So I can give an example of business, for example. So when I got into the space, for digital marketing, I told you, I started working with agencies and then I got retrenched. And then I started getting like all these recruitment offers from like really big firms to go and be like an MD. And I'm thinking, you want me to be an MD at 25? Like, are you mad? Like, but because of my business analytical skills, I would understand like whether a company is able to break even or not from just looking at their revenue generation and their costs management within their business and how long it would actually take them to get to profitability, for example. One of the things that I got to understand quite quickly was a lot of businesses that wanted me to go and work for them were either breaking even or loss making, and they're looking for a turnaround MD. So at that point in time, you're thinking to yourself, am I ready to turn around a business that's not yet making money? And maybe I actually don't understand the industry. So there's certain things that I actually stepped away from. What was really interesting was that after all that, I decided to get into the agency space. I had a stint with WPP where I was there for like 4 months. Airtel was the biggest client. My role was to set up the digital media division and get it profitable in the shortest time possible. I did it in 4 months and I left. But when I left, I went to another company called Smoke Signal where I was able to get capital in to start up a digital business. So the capital was actually provided for by TBWA globally. But I wasn't managing the capital because I had a very small stake in the business. Come to realize that capital was also mismanaged. And suddenly you're thinking, oh my gosh, this guy was actually mismanaging stuff. Like, you're part of a company, but you're suddenly wondering like, oh, why are salaries delaying? We have clients who are paying us.
So what's going on?
What's going on? And, come to realize like, he was taking from Peter to pay Paul, not borrowing, taking, it's different.
Yes. It was embezzlement.
It was proper embezzlement. And after that, I was like, I don't think, after like 2 years, I was like, I don't think I'm I'm cut out for this.
So it was 2 years of like delayed salary.
No, it started off very well.
Okay.
We won a lot of clients. Like, we won Unilever, we won Tigo. I was managing Tigo in like 5 markets. Unilever, across East Africa. We started doing like really interesting projects on measurement, things that were not being done in the industry. And, you keep on innovating. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And that innovation bug kind of gets you, especially when you're working with an agency, because different clients have different needs. And then, paying for performance. Like, for example, I'm a clothing store, but I only want to market if I will make a sale. So they pay for performance. Like, for every dollar you spend, what's the return on that spend?
Yes.
And that is something that I really perfected at that time. And unfortunately, because of everything else that's happening, my family is still growing. Remember, I've probably doubled or tripled my earnings from wherever it is I'm coming from. The idea behind that was, let's try and see if I can actually get something that's better for me, that's something that will appreciate. At that same time, around the same time, I got to meet the guy who brought in Google to the continent. And he just said, like, look, we're looking for guys who actually get it, guys who are smart. And we have a bunch of banking clients and gaming clients globally that we might need assistance on to bring them onto the continent. As a result of that, they came in and invested capital in what I was doing here. So when you talk about capital, from what I've drawn so far, people don't invest in a business, people actually invest in you, the individual, to actually drive the business. And that is a philosophy that I started now carrying. Around that time, I started understanding, they actually look at you because you have the skill set, you have the understanding, you have the relationships and the networks to be able to get something up and running. Right. We will invest in you, the individual. And just because of also my upbringing, like, again, nothing comes easy. It has to pain you to get the success. Right. You're willing to, go the extra hours to do it. And the more I did it, the more I realized, like, this is something that happened. Even with the entertainment business, Africa Creative Agency, I was introduced by my boss at the company in South Africa that I ended up working for after this, shit show of an experience. Exactly. And again, he just, at hello, just like, kicked it off, and Neo was coming to Kenya. He asked me to check for him if this is a legit thing. I did my background. I was like, yeah, it's Coca-Cola. He's coming for Coke Studio. When he came, he asked me to be with him at Hemingway's. I stayed there. Like, I'm just here for vibes and having a good time. And I mean, it's Neo, and Diamond is there also. Diamond is trying to cut a deal with Neo to do a song. Finding out the deal is actually lopsided because, all that time, still there, Skiza revenue is going to Diamond and not going to Neo. So it's a lopsided deal. And I understood that. And because I speak Swahili,
you're like,
I'm like, something. So I go and talk to my now businessman and say, like, hey, I think we might need to check this thing again because I think your boy is... And
he doesn't know.
And it's just me being like me. And, one thing led to another. And, he came and told me, like, that was actually a really dope move. And, I mean, clients, the Coca-Cola client knew me because of advertising. Like, would you be interested in looking at setting up a business of entertainment? I'm like, what's that? He's like, have you ever heard of William Morris? I'm like, never. Have you heard of CA? I'm like, never. He's like, go read this book. And he gave me a book.
What didn't teach you at Harvard Business School?
Yeah, I did not. They did not teach me that there. They taught me about digital business, which I was really good at. Yeah. But then it was all about representing human brands, ultimately. And I thought to myself, holy crap, I've been representing brands.
Just corporate
ones. But I've never thought about human brands. And that's now when I realized when these two worlds come together, it's going to be magic, epic. Right. And this is in 2015 now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I want to take you back to one thing as a case study. And I know we're like running out of time.
Are we though?
We really are.
Oh, man.
We really are.
Yeah.
The 4-month stint, at for the Airtel project at WPP.
Yeah.
How were you able to? Can you give us some insight on how you were able to set that up, make it profitable, and like within 4 months?
It was all around operational efficiencies. Number one. So things like reporting, you automate reporting. You don't get people to do actual reporting work. Because the unit was really small, the expenditure was big. Their advertising spend was big, so getting it profitable wasn't hard. The supply of funds was more than the people who are managing it. So getting it profitable was a no-brainer for me. Sort
of last thing maybe as we cover, it's a performance marketing, right? And essentially what you guys do.
It's not the only thing.
No, not the only thing. Yes, one of the things that you guys do and have done well. What's the, if you can break down the innovative thinking behind performance marketing and why many marketers don't want to get into that space and prefer to be
traditional
cost rather than revenue generating. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. All right, I'm gonna get a bit technical right now.
Okay.
All right. So basically, when you think about the practice of performance marketing, allow me to zoom out so that I can give you context. The practice of performance marketing actually started off probably in 1999, and people don't realize this. It started off with the gaming companies, the betting companies in the Philippines, in Latin America, China. A lot of these casinos would go, and online was coming up, and online gambling was becoming a thing. The idea behind it is that you have mathematical models that actually drive a lot of the algorithms in the betting companies, right? And so the secret here is to get as many punters as possible to come onto the platform. And the probability of them losing a bet would make money for the gaming company, all right? So think of it across the board. You need to understand not just demographic aspects, you need to understand psychographic aspects of the people you're trying to target. And not just psychographic aspects, you also need to understand the state of mind and the moment of truth that they would be able to actually make a quote-unquote purchasing decision, in this instance, a punting decision, right? And the way you do that is you need to also understand the way targeting works in some of these platforms. So you need to understand the mathematical models around the algorithms that Google would have at that time, that Yahoo would have at that time.
Right.
And obviously search was a big part of that. What we began to see quite clearly is the gaming companies got it right because they only make money when someone loses. But then apply the same notion in like banking, in e-commerce, in FMCG, for example. It's a different ballgame, but there's a method to the madness. So what people don't realize is that there is a factor of two things. For people to buy a product, they first need to know about your product. That means there has to be a level of brand awareness within the marketplace. And not just brand awareness, there has to be top of mind awareness. So it's not just that your market is there and people know of a brand called whatever. There has to be a top of mind awareness level that when someone says, if I say soap, what comes to your mind? Right? So I'll give an example for you.
If you say that, I just thought geisha. I don't know why.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Right? When I say car, what comes to your mind?
Nissan right now.
Nissan.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are certain things that brands can actually be able to do, and it's more or less a brand building exercise. But it's brand building to drive brand love. Without brand love, you cannot optimize for performance. It's a yin and a yang. A lot of mistakes that people do in the marketplace today is that they would go and take a brand and say, we're going to do performance marketing for you. But then you get straight into performance marketing without necessarily. So people, you're already like minimizing your target audience on this end without really understanding that people actually don't know anything about your brand. So unless people know, oh, this brand is is in the market. I've seen billboards about it. I've seen it on TV. Oh, it seems legit. Oh, suddenly I'm seeing people talk about it. Creators. Oh, I'm seeing people give proof points about it. Like, oh my gosh, I used to have acne-based skin. My skin is soft.
Right.
Then when it comes to e-commerce, it's easy because whatever budget you use to drive sales, it's easy now for you to optimize that. Now, because that awareness and brand love is there, the proof points are there, you can easily drive that. Yeah. Okay. So it's how you balance the two that actually drive. So for example, there's a beer, I won't mention which one, there's a beer brand we're working on, and sales were declining, but awareness levels were high. And you're like, why is it declining? And then we realized, in as much as awareness is high, salience, which is pretty much the overall consideration to say, like, if I think about this beer, these are the things that the salience aspects were very low. So if you're declining in salience, that means your sales are also going to be declining. And so to get salience to a certain level, there are certain things that you're supposed to do. There are certain cultural proof points that the brand is supposed to show up in, because it's a beer brand.
Yes.
And that's how you course correct that. So marketing is not really an art. It's actually a science.
More of a science.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So from an agency perspective, do you monetize on two elements? From, there's the brand work and the brand love and building the brand love that we'll get. And then do we also take a percentage of whatever revenues we're able to generate or drive?
So there are clients that we do revenue share.
Okay.
And there are clients that we do like straight up purely traditional. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think, Collins, I think you enjoyed that. Yeah. Collins is the marketer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
He's the marketing officer.
Yeah.
So, hopefully you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah.
So, final question. I mean, for you, what is money for you now? Is it a tool? Do you feel like you like if you were to retire, can you retire now? Do you feel like you have enough money?
Yeah.
Is it a tool? And if I'm not wrong, I think you have four daughters in this economy.
Is that a bad thing?
No, I don't think it's a bad thing.
I want more, actually.
I think the question is I think from a middle class perspective is, do you ever have pressure points right now, or do you earn enough money that it's like, my life is sorted and
no, pressure points are going to be there, starting with KRA.
Yeah.
On a light note, though.
Yeah.
Yes, there are definitely pressure points. I don't think I would want to retire now because I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. On both sides, on the entertainment side and on the advertising side. Right. Exactly. If I look at the level of investment that has gone into me personally, when I think about like the school fees, the, endless coffee sessions that I've had with my mentors, the I told you so's, all those investments into my life are priceless. But I believe that I need to return that investment back first, right? And so I don't think I'm about to retire anytime soon. That's the first thing. If there are certain things that, I've always wanted to do, I got into crypto when I was probably in 2018. And when the dip happened, I lost a significant amount of money. But then it's now on the rise. I want to see the end of that tunnel.
Okay.
I want to see when the Bitcoin.
You said you're glass half full
kind of guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's what you might call it. There's evidence to show that you've been able to see the rise of the asset, the digital asset, to a certain level. I'm just talking about Bitcoin, not anything else. So yes. I'm a maximalist in that way, as far as crypto is concerned. Okay. So there's a lot more that is doing. In fact, just the other day we tested, sending money directly to like Nigeria in like 7 seconds instantly from one bank account to another, but on the blockchain, for example. So those are the things that really interest me. Like, how do we make life easier? How do we continually invest in the human potential to be able to see that? Yeah. AIESEC taught me one thing, peace and fulfillment for humankind's potential. That was the overall vision.
Yes. Okay. Last question. Because it sounds like I mean, from when you're getting in Mexico, you've worked a good job, you've had money. I mean, you've mentioned being retrenched, but it doesn't sound like you've had financial turmoil. What's been your lowest financial moment as a self-earning adult?
When I went to my bank account and I saw it's a zero, and I realized that it's not that my bank account was hacked.
Yes.
It's just that I spent all my money badly.
That
genuinely has happened before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like getting into the...
was it like a come to Jesus moment?
It was a come to Jesus moment. No, seriously.
Were you mid-month? Were you...
like, not even mid-month. It's like halfway into week 2. You know,
like day 10 of the month.
Exactly. You know,
and you're like, what happened?
What the heck? Yeah. I have got bills to pay. It's scary.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just because you spent money badly.
Yeah.
And understanding that money is a tool that can be used for good, and that you can always recover. Like, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
So you can always recover. Just always recognize the value that you carry as a human being.
Yeah.
And what you can show.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Man, thank you, Joel. Thank you so much.
I hope this has been helpful.
Yeah, I think it's been entertaining.
You know what would be really dope?
Yeah.
And just because of the questions that you've asked,
yeah,
I'd be really interested in coming back and talking about the opportunity around human brands.
Yeah. Because we could have talked about it. It's you who has a meeting.
I have a meeting, and actually I'm getting calls.
Yes,
I'm actually getting calls like, "Hey, the meeting has started." I'm like, "Okay, fine."
So
yeah.
Let's organize a second.
Let's organize. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
No, but thank you so much, and again, thank you guys for your patience, man. It's been like 1 year in the making. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I have definitely picked a lesson or two, and we will see you guys next Friday on the next episode of Financially Incorrect.
Awesome.